Good evening. My name's Eric Bra, and tonight we travel to the Arctic Circle aboard one of the most beautiful and remote railway journeys in all of Europe. Written by Andrew Martin, our story takes place along the tracks of the Nordland Railway as we travel through breathtaking scenery found only on the coast of Norway. So relax, get comfortable, and we'll start our story. Your journey begins at Trondheim as the sun begins to set. You take in the scenery, mesmerized by the town's beautiful architecture. Trondheim has an old Gothic cathedral whose stone interior is illuminated by hundreds of candles. But perhaps the most distinctive buildings are a series of old timber warehouses lining the River Neat. These buildings, usually converted to cozy firelit restaurants and pubs, are painted either rich brown red, green, or sunflower yellow, as are their own reflections in the river. And Trondheim is a rather watery place. Along with the river, there is a relaxing canal running through town. But perhaps the most notable water source is the great expanse of the Trondheim Fjord, into which a good deal of rain falls throughout the year. The night before your journey, you look down from the restaurant of your comfortable hotel in Trondheim, watching the marshalling of a goods train near Trondheim railway station. At regular intervals along the track, electric lights twinkle red and yellow in the mist made by the falling rain. The gentle rain still falls as you approach the station early on the following morning. The streets are peaceful and quiet, the traffic lights changing for no apparent reason as no one awaits them at this hour. As you approach the station, which is adjacent to the river, you hear the friendly foghorn of a ship crossing the fjord. Trondheim Railway Station is known for being an elegant classical building. It is a relief to enter the warm and bright booking hall in the station shop. Norwegian commuters are buying newspapers, tea, and pastries, and most will be taking local trains, not the Nordland line. The place seems a home away from home for some of them, and they call cheerful greetings to one another as they come through the main doors, shaking the water off their umbrellas. The Nordland train is waiting, a smart red diesel locomotive and 6 red carriages, all very well designed and arranged. You take your seat, which is most accommodating, with a tall back and plenty of leg room, completely content. There is no impulse to try and exchange it for another. A generously sized table is before you, and to the side, a window. A Wi-Fi connection is available, and while you are sure it works beautifully, as most things on Norwegian railways do, you have no desire to turn on any devices today. Instead, you plan to fully immerse yourself in the journey. Norway does not have many railways. A landscape of mountains, forests, and rivers mostly prevent the building of them, but that same landscape has ensured the lines that are built are truly beautiful. As you pull away from Trondheim station, the rain begins rhythmically falling against the window glass, giving the effect of a black and white film to the sleepy suburbs of Trondheim. They seem old-fashioned, pleasingly reminiscent of the 1950s. You glimpse a man in a rain cape riding a bike with a basket on the front, and a woman pushing a big stroller, holding a large black umbrella over herself and baby. You sit back and relax. You are in first class, known as comfort class, and it is comfortable, which is just as well because your train will be covering over 450 miles, stopping 27 times, and passing through more stations than it stops at. Soon you are out of town, moving through gently undulating fields. The grass is lush and amazingly green. All that rain is the cause, you suppose. Clouds move like smoke in the steely skies above. There are cattle and sheep, yet no people in view, even though the train runs close to farmhouses, sometimes broaching the picket fence boundaries of actual farmyards. These houses are chalet-like, made partly of wood, usually maroon or yellow in color, and always beautifully kept, with a Norwegian flag flying from the roof or a nearby flagpole. There are some tokens of habitation, however, like a drift of smoke from a chimney and the warm glow of illuminated windows. Over on the other side of the tracks, the rain is passing by, the open sea, or what looks like the open sea, with a couple of giant black oil tankers moving slowly across the horizon. But this is the Trondheim Fjord, as a woman sitting on the opposite side of the carriage proudly informs you. Sometimes the train seems to descend almost onto the shingle beach, which is lapped by gentle waves. From time to time you see small upturned boats on the beach, waiting for smoother waters. Even after the train has stopped half a dozen times, the fjord remains your companion. At last you see an actual person on that side. He's rowing a small boat, wearing a bulky waterproof coat and a large shapeless southwester hat. As the train passes by, he stops rowing and waves. You can't see his face, but you are perfectly confident that he is smiling. You have found the Norwegians to be extremely friendly and very well organized. For example, the automatic onboard announcements broadcast in carriages are minimal and softly muttered, first in Norwegian, then in English. In a few minutes we will be arriving at, and then the name of the station is given, followed always by its height above sea level, which you find a slightly puzzling addition, but charming, indicating a strong connection to nature, of which there is a great deal in northern Norway. The stations, like the farmhouses, are usually pretty buildings made of wood. There is always a clock on the outside and often a well-kept garden nearby. You like to imagine the waiting rooms with wooden floors, landscape paintings on the walls, a clock patiently ticking. Every so often, the cheerful station master enters to throw more logs into the warm iron stove. Sometimes bikes are stacked against the side walls of the stations, and they appear to be unlocked. You have been told that it is not necessary to lock a bike or a door in the countryside of Norway. At the average stop-off, 2 people get off and 2 people get on. Those boarding tend to be soaked, but they look happy enough, and it appears to be the custom on Norwegian trains to nod to your fellow passengers as you walk along the aisle of a carriage towards your seat. Glancing out the window, you again marvel at the train's proximity to the rolling silvery waves and the empty beaches. The friendly Norwegian woman on the opposite aisle, who has been listening to music on headphones, removes them as classical music seeps out and leans over. "Still Trondheim Fjord," she says, smiling. "It will be with us for another 30 miles, and the train has already covered 70. Before going back to her music, the woman introduces herself as Anna. There are newspapers, including some English ones, in the carriage, and a tea and beverage-making machine. For a while you read and sip tea, then a great stone gorge appears amid the trees on the landward side. Anna removes her headphones again. "Namsen River," she explains, inviting you to look through the window on her side. And you do so, and craning, you can just make out rushing white water at the base of the gorge. You ask if she will be going all the way to Bodo, and she nods gravely. "All the way. My bicycle is in the baggage car, and I will be touring the Bodo district as I do every year." You're glad Anna is going the entire way to Bodo, because she is the ideal traveling companion, helpful and kind, yet respectful and quiet. The rolling green meadows have now given way to more dramatic, rockier scenery, and you have finally left the fjord behind, although others will be appearing shortly. Anna pulls out a green Perspex lunchbox and begins eating her well-organized lunch. Noticing your interest, she invites you to share her food. You thanked her, but politely decline, saying you'd like to take a look at the dining car. As you walk along the train, you pass through one carriage that has a sort of playpen for children. There is a climbing frame and scattered toys. 3 children sit cross-legged in front of a large TV that is showing cartoons, silently, of course. In spite of the beauty of the landscape, most of the passengers in the next 2 carriages are sleeping, lulled by the motion of the train and the relaxing rain thrumming against the windows. The restaurant car is impeccable, ultra-clean and very modern, but reminiscent of a 50s diner with white tables and red leather banquette seats. The only other customers are a middle-aged couple. They both nod at you, and seeing that you are looking with interest at the stew they are eating, the woman explains, "Lufskus, it's stew. I promise you'll like it." Taking her word for it, you order a plateful for yourself, and indeed find it quite delicious.
As you eat your lunch, followed by a calming cup of tea, the train makes a couple of stops. You are now in deep countryside, and the stations are just halts, small platforms with perhaps a tiny hut for shelter from the weather. The people alighting at these stops are equipped with full sets of waterproof and high-tech rucksacks. One man walks directly from the halt into the adjoining forest of pine trees. You return to your carriage and your seat. The forested, rocky hills have now become snow-capped mountains. Where there are proper station buildings, they are now plainer and more functional, sometimes of brick. While the northern part of the Nordland Railway was originally constructed for the purposes of defending the Norwegian coast, it is very hard to believe that this railway was built for any other reason than to give enjoyment to its passengers. There is a beautiful melancholy about this route. The absence of people, the vertiginous gorges, the great birds, some of them white-tailed eagles, you will later discover, bravely soaring in the falling rain. The train pulls into the station at the small industrial town of Mo i Rana, known formerly as Mole. It stands on the shores of another fjord, the Ran Fjord, whose wide black waters are